Hmm. To child support or not to child support? That is the question. No, so. So we want to dive into child support. How many of us really have a whole bunch of people who, you know, always bring that up, talking about, well, child support this, child support that. My baby mama put me on child support because of such and such, or, F that girl because she tried to come after me with the child support. We have to be realistic right now. We have to understand, for the women's defense, child support is initiated if you receive welfare automatically by the state. If you receive any kind of state help, it doesn't matter if it's food stamps, medical, child care, cash assistance, whatever. If no, actually, I don't think food stamps is one. My bad. Let me backtrack that. Maybe it varies state to state. We have to take that into accountability. But in all reality, if you receive any kind of welfare government assistance, they're coming for that ass. You know what I'm saying? Now, as a disclaimer, I am not a legal attorney. This is not legal advice, okay? This is just one of those perspectives that I have in regards to child support. You know what I mean? Now, do it or not do it, that's on you. This is, case by case, personal matter. I truly believe that child support should be enforced if the parent is completely absent, or just not doing his part at all. You know what I mean? um I get that, but then we also have to take into account, in my perspective, that if a man stated very early on, this is not what it is, because remember, we got to take into account we have this hookup culture, and we have to like really put into perspective that sometimes a child is wanted from, like, how they call it, was it mama's baby, daddy's maybe, like, you know what I mean? I think that has like a dual meaning, because it's like some guys may want the child, some guys may not, but then we also have the paternal fraud, as they call it, whereas that ain't his baby. You know what I mean? So child support could be really, really, really tricky, and we're gonna dive into the history of it real quick so that we could kind of get into how it even came to what it is perceived as today. Now, remember, because there's a method to the madness, we have to take into account that we have gotten to where we are from a point. You know what I mean? Like, without this, there ain't that. Let's kind of bring it together. A little razzle dazzle with it. So, of course, I'm gonna go with my notes, because you know me, I touch the span of a dog. I'm gonna keep reminding you guys every single time, because I need to remind myself. You know what I mean? But so child support was created in the, like, from the government, obviously, but it was designed so that it would reduce the amount of welfare recipients, because the way that they looked at it was like, okay, if a woman's receiving the assistance from the other parent financially, then she wouldn't have to go on welfare. Well, that's not truly the case, as we see today. Child support is completely out of control at this point. It has actually been tied into as like a welfare program. And I'm going to explain that further in a little bit, but I'm just going to give you a little bit of background in regards to like how the whole point of creating child support came into play. And I was watching I want to say like it was a hearing. I'm not exactly sure. It could have been a presentation. I'm going to leave the link down below, because I like to give backing to what I'm talking about, because I promise you I don't be talking out of my ass. Like, I promise you that there's a method to my madness in regards to my thinking. It's not coming out of thin air. Promise. Scott's honor. But it was actually had this presentation took place on November 4th, 2005, and it was in Minnesota. So a lot of the points that she was making was specifically to the state of Minnesota. But when we talk about child support itself, it's nationwide, like it's across all states. So, a lot of the things that she was making in regards to like the correlation of child support with welfare is very evident and prevalent to all states. You know what I mean? So that's the key points that I'm going to highlight on. And then we're going to have the perspective and homework of, let's figure out where it falls for you and I, and we could talk about it at a later point. Now, considering it was designed to reduce the amount of welfare recipients, it was supposed to be also like when the father is completely absent and not involved. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like a way for him to do his part whether he's there or not. Now, it was claimed that child support was designed to help the kids, but if we really think about how it works, especially in today's day and age, it's actually the opposite. My perspective, remember, disclaimer, I'm going to give my perspective on it, and we're going to bring a perspective to the table, which is, it's me in front of the camera, so it's going to be mine, But it's a way for, you guys to kind of put it into perspective for yourself to kind of see where I'm coming from, because if we think about it, child support now has been weaponized. It's gotten to a place where it's putting two parents against each other. The child's in the freaking middle, and then because these two parents got beef, they're apps to each other. This child is told, essentially, forced to kind of pick a side. You know what I'm saying? Pick a side, not any side though, because it's going to be with a custodial parent that she wants you to be on her side. And why I say her is because 90% of custodial parents are assumed to be or presumed to be women. You know what I mean? Small 10% is men. That's rare cases, but a lot of times it's usually the women. But we have to understand that the child support system got really fuzzy with the lines, and the lines got super blurred with Title 4D. Now, what the fuck is Title 4D? I got you. I did my research, promise. And I'm going to leave the description in the link. Oh, the link in the description. Look at me. I asked backwards. I'm so sorry. I promise I don't have, well, whatever. Anyways. So it is the only program, right, that there's no eligibility. You literally, anybody can apply for it. There's no regulation on it, nothing. The closest to regulation in some states is where there's a cap on the amount of dollars that you can pay out in child support. In some states. Let me emphasize some. You know what I mean? Now, the number of states, I didn't get that far because you know what? This is going to be a multi-part, conversation, and we're going to touch on it at a different point. But once I get you guys involved with trying to tell me your perspective on it, so that way I can, accumulate everyone's perspective and put it into play so that we can talk about it. Because I got y'all. We working together. All right? We in this together? Me and you? You and I? Well, shit. You and all? No. Wait, no. Us and all. Whatever. You know what I mean. And it came to a point where child support through Title 4D, it's like family law versus welfare law, right? Title 4D made child support very, very different. And why it made it very different is because it got tied to the Social Security Act of 1935. I'm going to get into that in a moment. I'm going to go back to talking about Title 4D. Look at me, D. Oops. Yeah. I promise my head's not in the gutter. I promise. I fucking promise. I mean, if we think about, that is how we get to the point where we got kids. All right, no. I'm gonna double back. All right, hold on. I promise. Hold on. There's a method to this madness. I have my coffee already. I promise. Okay. So, both parents essentially do have the duty of taking care of the child. We understand that, right? They have equal duty to support this child. But the federal program. Well, no, wait. But child support is a federal program that is state supervised. Look at me. I promise you, not polished. See, I'm being real. And it's county enforced. So remember, now to kind of reiterate that, child support is the program that is, brought upon us all through the federal government. So it's a federal program that it is state supervised. So each state has a supervision over, the federal program. And that's why every state is different. So if you want to go have kids and you ain't got kids yet, be sure you know who the hell you're having a kid with based on the state that she lives in or she gonna be in. You know what I mean? Try to look out for you. Sis got you. But it is county enforced. So it's the counties that actually enforce the child support payments or to even get the child support. Now, when we talk about Title 4D, it is assumed that moms have custody, right? Now, there's actually been discussions even on my Facebook timeline when we talk about in the state of Rhode Island where I'm from, that moms have custody. Well, fun fact about the state of Rhode Island is both parents have technically equal custody in a sense. you have to, I believe, go to court to obtain full custody, or like actually outline and distinguish what type of custody you have. I can't remember exactly, but it's something along those lines. So there's a lot of rights that both parents have just by being on the birth certificate together. I have to dive into more of that. I am keeping this very general because the audience comes from all different places. So, um, the point of the child support program was created under the assumption that women are unable to self sustain without the support of the government or without the support of men. One parent is labeled as absent by default. So, usually, with the assumption that women are the custodial parent, the father is considered to be the absent parent. So even if like you are filling out the child support payment, paperwork, or if you're in welfare, it always says the absent parent, and it's usually the parent that's not in the home, which tends to be the father. But like the last video I said, that it was a system that was created on purpose, and the systems are always created to work, essentially, right? Yeah. Okay. Um. So they assumed that, no, I'm gonna say assumptions, right? We're gonna say like it's the assumption in when I'm saying it is like, when we have people who are alleged to do a crime, we're gonna say allegedly this took place. You know what I mean? So assumption is really heavily perceived in this conversation as allegedly. You know what I mean? So they assume that the dads won't do their part, or the dads won't pay up until they get that child support. And there's a huge bureaucracy, which is basically like a government system. That's what bureaucracy essentially means, to support the parent at the expense of the other parent. So remember the ops. So basically, the bureaucracy, which is like the state supporting government, the government state support, whatever the fuck, you know what I mean. So they got their back. So they're part of that clique. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like Tupac. Fuck your clique in the no. Fuck your bitch in the clique you claim. That's kind of like where we're at with the bureaucracy. You know what I'm saying? They pick a side, and they're hoping the kid's gonna pick the same side. Sick, sick. I promise you. So it gives the custodial parent, which essentially would be assumed as the woman, a sense of invulnerability. So like she has no worries. You know what I mean? No worry, be happy. You know what I mean? But they kind of take it to the extreme. Like to me, I'm telling you, this shit is just it makes no damn sense to me. But whatever. Um, Considering that it puts the parents at odds, the animosity gets increased because they're looking at it like, oh, you're trying to get me where it hurts. Well, I'm gonna circle back and spin the corner on you too. Like, you know what I mean? And it's in today's like society, we look at it as the custodial parent gets everything, and essentially I guess it does fall in that line, but it was literally created this way. So this is what we have to understand, that a lot of the things that's going on in today, it was purposely created and designed this way. So it's not like the system itself. Basically, this is the goal of today's episode is really to kind of bring to awareness how there are multiple systems, and they were all designed to intermingle, be all up in each other. And it was also created specifically to tear the families apart. So we have where we talk about um, they're saying that they designed child support to kind of reduce the amount of welfare recipients. However, Title 4D focuses more on the risk rather than where we are in that moment. So when we say about the risk, right, um, we talk about Title 4D kind of like bridges the gap of what is going on and what could go on. And it's heavily focused on what could go on because they look at it as even people who are no longer on it or have never received it, they can always fall victim or fall to be a potential recipient of welfare. So that's why they designed the child support system the way it is today, that way. And there's no regulations, or there's no what the hell is the word I'm looking for? Like, you know how like everybody can apply for it. There's no eligibility requirements. There's no um restrictions. Like it's like the lines are just blurred. It's like a free for all. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You get child support, you get child support, everybody gets child support. It's kind of fucked up. And it's always at the expense of the absent parent, which tends to be perceived and assumed as the father. So when we talk about, you know, the point that I've made where I'm like, I don't have neither kid's father on child support, it's because I understand child support for what it is as far as the system. Because we have to understand for a long time, you know, even back in the day and stuff, before child support became what it is, especially like in the 80s and 90s um, and beyond, a lot of it was held as a private manner, right? So now we talk about public rights versus private rights. And public, we have to remember, it's government interest, it's protected by the state, and it's compelling state interest. You know what I mean? And then when we talk about private, it's no government interest, it's protected by the Constitution, and it's private domestic relations. You know what I mean? So it's almost like when we have situations where we call the cops and they're like, this is out of our jurisdiction, or like, this is like out of our scope, you know, this is a private matter, not a civil. Wait, is that how it goes? You got to go to like civil court or some shit like that. Like we can't do nothing. Like they can't intervene. Because trust me, I used to work for Renaissance, and it was this one time where I went and I pulled up to this person because I was a collection manager. So you know, I'm the one that's knocking on the door at 7 o'clock in the morning talking about money or merchandise. Which one am I leaving with today? And so I remember when I went to Renaissance, and this person was actually moving. Mind you, it took me months to find this chick. And she was actually moving, and I was like, nah, I blocked her driveway and everything. I called the cops and said, nah, we need our merchandise. And they really came, and they're like, yeah, this is a civil matter. We can't do nothing. I said, what? Now, this isn't for me to sit there and promote for y'all to do the same thing she did. That's fucked up. Don't do that. Like, you know what I'm saying? But it was just like, we have to understand there's certain things that, you know, even public officers can't do nothing about it because it's a private matter. Now, back to child support. Child support is a private matter, but it became a public matter because what they did was, remember, with the intermingle, they went ahead and they put it as like a sector of the Social Security Act of 1935. Now, there's 21 titles in the Social Security Act of 1935. 4D is what we're talking about because there's Title 4, right, which is that has to do with like the public assistance, TANF, you know, like welfare. And then from Title 4, they have A, B, C, D. We're talking about 4D, okay? So it's supposed to be like with the Title 4, it was supposed to talk about like, you know, well, no, I'm sorry. The Social Security Act was essentially for low-income people. It's a social safety net. And Title 4 is like needy families and children and welfare services. Title 4D, right, is what we are talking about when it comes to child support. And that's how they blurred the lines of public versus private, right? And essentially Title 4 with the whole child welfare, well, the welfare system and everything like that, is really to ensure the basic needs, right? So it's needy versus dependent. And it's based on what they say of like, you know, the title relief and Social Security. Now, the study on Title 4A that was, I believe, issued in 1974. The Title 4D, I believe it was 1974 or whatever. You guys can do your research. Come back and tell me because, you know, like I said, we in this together. I ain't gonna remember everything because it's a lot to unpack. And on top of that, the way my brain's set up, you know, I gotta remember and talk about, you know, it's there's a lot. Yeah, squirrel. You know what I'm saying? So essentially the whole purpose of the welfare program is like, you know, it's gotten to a point where, you know, they were having a lot of out of wedlock births. I believe in the as we approach the 1980s, that's when it spiked up to like the 1970s, going into 1980s is when it spiked to 60%. And I think right now it's at a whopping like 83 or like a 83% is sick, or maybe even 91. I don't know. I gotta go back and double check. That's a different segment for a different time, I promise. We gonna touch that. We definitely gonna touch that because we're trying to fix that. You know what I mean? And so they went ahead and they realized that, you know, there was an out of control number with wedlocks out of wedlock births. The dads wasn't around or they wasn't being found. A lot of dads left the home. All moms had custody by default. The dads failed to provide financially. Mom and kids went to government assistance. This was what kind of brewed Title 4D. Now, this was becoming out of control, and these are all the assumptions that of the government, and this is why they went ahead and created Title 4D, was because they were trying to bridge that gap. And in Title 4D, I want to emphasize, was strictly created based on assumptions, right? They're looking at it as women cannot get work. They're expected to stay home with the kids, unable to sustain without government help or a man. The men were the breadwinner. All unmarried men were deadbeats. That's fucked up. It's extreme. Like, remember, we really go on extremes, but these are the assumptions that they had. All right. And they're looking at it as child support was reimbursement from public assistance. So those of the women that are already on welfare, they were going to use child support to recover the money back. And then also it was going to be cost avoidance. You know what I mean? And because it's cost avoidance, it's considered to be legal, how they were trying to blur the lines of public versus private, right? Now, the original Social Security Act, when it was first created in 1935, it was only 12 pages. But right now, if you try to look it up, it's sick. You know what I'm saying? Because they had amendments after amendments after amendments after amendments. So if we look at 1984, they were focusing on like the at-risk welfare recipients. So remember when I said a little earlier about how it was really like the at-risk, or the ones that no longer receive welfare anymore, or the ones that could like never received it at all. They grouped that as the at-risk because the numbers are bigger being combined, right? So when we talk about the numbers, where did I write that down? Because I know I wrote that down. All right, here it is. When we look at it, right, at that time, nationwide, 17% of people were actually on welfare, 46% were no longer on welfare, and 37% were never on welfare. So if we look at that number, we're looking at roughly, I believe, like 83% in together that they looked at as the at-risk. So this is what prompted this whole blurring the lines between private and public when it came to child support. Now, in 1996, they literally have it where like anyone can apply. So especially like when it comes to the at-risk, their biggest focus too was divorcees. So even if you were divorced, it doesn't matter if you were a PhD, you were a judge, you didn't need the child support. If you apply as a divorcee, you gonna get it. So that's how they look at it. So now when we talk about Title 4D, it also like introduced the whole concept of wage withholding. So you know how when they're like, oh, my check is garnished because of child support, this is where it comes in. But a lot of people don't know. And shout out to this presentation, because there's like 3 forms of wage withholding, right? There's the full 4D service, which is usually the welfare recipient, whatever the case may be. There's the non-4D service. So if you're not a recipient of welfare, but you're put on child support, you can always do the paperwork for the non-4D service. And then there's the private direct deposits, which, if you think about it, most people who are of a certain caliber, they usually go this route, which is, or even for those who decide to settle out of court, like I did, when they try to get my baby daddy on, well, no, I'm sorry, let me put some respect on his name. When they try to put my daughter's father on child support, I had to go in with a notarized letter to show that I wanted to settle out of court because I didn't want to put him on child support. I'm telling you, my dad is the one that really embedded that in my mind from early on, but we'll get into that in a moment. And where we're to a point where, like, when we think about when the government is involved, right? So say, for example, if they rule that, this is just an extreme example, okay? Disclaimer. If they go ahead and they rule that the father has to pay $500 a week, but it's a full 4D service, they literally would have it where the father does pay 4D. He gets his check garnished or whatever. But by the time it hits over to the woman's card, you know the card I'm talking about, she's probably only going to get like $50. And there's cases like that, like, and it's crazy because a lot of people don't put that part, and you have a lot of fathers who have been put on child support, and then they have this relationship that is strained with their child because the child's asking for stuff, and they're like, oh, ask your mom, she gets child support, but they're under the presumption that the mom receives all 500, but the state's like, nah, bitch, run me my money, like, you know what I'm saying? And um they get to a point where we have to like take a look in with the whole child support system and realize, like, th- there's no there's no decision of apple oh, hold up, there's no due process, like the whole process of it, like there's no due process a lot of times, like you don't, yeah, go look up due process because I don't feel like getting into all that. I'm on a time restraint right now. There's no approval process. There's no, like, investigation or verification that the funds are being like dispersed appropriately, and there's no process to close the file, which is some fucked up shit. Now, the lead attorney, I actually really really like the lead attorney. He's dope. You guys should check out his content, but he does talk about child support a lot. He is a huge advocate for men, especially when it comes to being wronged by the system. And the reason why child support is really like tricky at this point in time in our in our world is because, like, there's, paternity fraud. There's men who adopt or like adopt or sign a birth certificate, even if they find out it's not their kid, they can still be, held for child support the same way. Even if they, had uh, taken part in raising a child for so long, and, because of the fact that he was taking care of that child while he was with the mom, they still force his ass to go ahead and keep paying that child support because, shit, at the end of the day, they just want their money. The money that is used from the child support that, is ruled and, put in a 4D full service, all that money that gets kicked back over to the government is what keeps the judicial system going. Like, you know what I mean? Let's be real. But whatever. Anyways, be sure you guys take a look at the link that I leave below, and, be sure to go ahead and let me know what your thought process is on this. I strongly am advocating that child support can be held privately. It is very important for both parents to have the same duties to support the child financially, especially because, shit, let's be real, having a kid is like having a broke best friend. But what makes it worse is that they have no cap on what they want. Like, they don't care. They want you to get it. Then they don't care what extremes you got to go to get it. Shoot, my kids, they be trying to hustle me up, especially my daughter. My daughter, yo, she's on some shit right now where it's like, Mom, can I do a chore and I get $3 for each chore I do? So she separates the chore. It's not it's not like clean your room and everything that's in your room gets cleaned. She's looking at it. I made my bed. That's $3. I swept the floor. That's $3. I fed the dog. Yo. It's like extortion. It's extortion. Like, you know what I mean? So, like, I went from giving my daughter a $10 a week allowance to, I just looked at it the other day and I realized she played me, but she didn't play me. She actually she finessed me. Like, you know what I mean? And it really like clicked for me because I'm like, yo, that little girl really just got like $12 out of me, and her cap is $10. Like, what are we talking about? Mm-hmm. Now, sidebar, because I love reading books, and Shahrazad Ali. Listen, if you hear this by any chance, just know I love you. You are an amazing, influential woman. And the things that you were speaking on in the 80s and 90s, like even up until present day, like, you are amazing. You know what I mean? And essentially your message is what I'm trying to carry out, and I'm also trying to carry it out as a woman who fell into the I guess the statistics category of what was to come from what took place. Anyways, this book right here, okay, which is The Things Your Parents Should Have Told You, this is a Bible that we all should have. All right, you can go on Amazon and find it, or maybe, yeah, you should be able to go on Amazon and find it. But, like, bruh, this right here is an amazing freaking book. Like, for real, for real. And the reason why I'm saying that we should really take a look at this especially as a Black woman, you know what I mean? Because, like, she breaks down everything from life to education to work. And mind you, this book was created in 1998, right? And so I'm just give you a brief synopsis of the contents. So she talks about life, which is ages birth to 12, 13 to 16, prom, and 17 through your 20s, For those of you, killing each other is one of the titles that she got up in there. And then she talks about like, job and like the credit info that you will need one day. And then we also get into like what do we blacks spend our money on? And that is definitely a topic we're about to discuss because shoot, the consumer rate for the black community is at 87%. Let's talk about that. But I'm gonna dive into that in the next episode, I promise. But as far as like, the education, you need your own schools. College is not necessary to be, successful, which I'm going to definitely talk about. How to keep the police from killing you, your sex drive, your mentors, who you copy, food and eating, the water for the ladies, the mind-body connection, food stamps plus you. Wait, she said plus you fat, but I'm sure she's probably talking about like the processed foods that we usually tend to grab and gravitate towards, especially when we got food stamps. Because when we got food stamps, how someone really got like the good food stamps when they got that snack closet. Girl, let me tell you, I ain't got no snack closet. my fridge looks scarce half of the time. My kids wonder if I'm going broke because I don't. But really, what happens is it's like you buy what you need as you need it. Whereas like before, when I did receive food stamps, I would just buy things in bulk. You know what I mean? Your money, so right. Like it's really sad that we think that way. It's not our money, so fuck it. Like you know what I'm saying? If it goes bad, it goes bad. It is what it is. But now that I am spending my own money, like listen, I'm very wary of what I spend. And good health is important for you. And then she talks about the prostate, taking your vitamins, things of that nature. And there's a lot more. The one that I definitely like is how to work on the white folks' job. And she even goes into like, the cars and all that other stuff and, religion. So she covers everything in this book. And this is what parents should have told us. And she gives it from a real like motherly perspective in a sense. And be sure to pick that up. I promise. It's worth it. I promise. Because, it's always said, there was a video that I saw and they were talking about how like like books is a white man's thing. But now let's put it into perspective, right? If books is a white man's thing, if we perceive white people to be completely successful, right? Or like, they are the standard of success in a way with the foreign cars, the designer, all that. Now, if their success or their secrets are in a book, why the fuck ain't we picking it up? You know what I mean? We should be picking up the books. We should be reading. We should be educating ourselves because we do miss a lot in life without getting fully informed. So instead of us working ass backwards, let's like, work smarter, not harder. And that is what we are here for. Make sure you like, share, hit that, bell too, because, I was told, that bell, make it ring, ring, so that that I'm popping up like what's good, you know what I mean? And be sure to share this with your family, friends. I won't be ratchet and I'll say your baby daddy's cousin over there. No, I said it anyways. But, just be sure to share with everyone and let's really get the conversations going. Remember, if you want to tell me what is on your mind and you want to go ahead and talk about your perspective on certain topics that I discuss, go over to Instagram. Slide up in that DM. I promise I will respond and I will go ahead and hear what you gotta say, good, bad, or indifferent. It is what it is. If I just leave you on red, just know that it just wasn't that. No, so I'm kidding. I promise I'll answer. Even if I hit you with a K. You know how they were saying like a person will send the whole bibliography and what does a man do to respond? K. Even if it's that, just know I got you. I'm gonna read it. But we'll see how I'm saying. I'm kidding. Make sure you guys go over to Instagram at Say Your Perspective. Follow us for more great content. Be sure to send us a DM of things, topics that you want to discuss. Make sure you hit like, share, get these views up so that we can get this message sent across. I am looking for supporters, not followers, because we are trying to support to where I go. And matter of fact, insight. If I get to 100K followers, supporters, subscribers, I'm going to give my ratchet ass story because I promise you, it gets real juicy. But if I'm going to put myself out there like that, it got to be worth it because I need more supporters to back me because I ain't trying to get ridiculed for this. This is not who I was. Like, this is who I was. That's not who I am today. Remember, I unlearned to relearn. So it's like I did a whole 180 because we ain't going to say 360 because 360 brings us right back. We went 180. I saw where I was and I saw where I was trying to go. So I had to go through it all so I could get to where I'm at today. But I'm willing to share that ratchet ass story. And I promise it's really good. For those who actually know it, you know what I'm talking about. It's really good. And I own my shit. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, love y'all.